Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2026 BMW DFS Tactics show. Per usual, on a Wednesday night, we're going to take our final look at the forecast for St. Louis, Missouri and Belle Reve, see if we need to factor in any wind or rain into our considerations. We will take a look at the mixed condition model that I've made for the BMW Championship this week. We'll cover my rankings, and as always, at the end of the show, we'll make a lot of lineups. So make sure you stick around to the end. That way you can get some ideas for your lineups and some considerations. And we are going to make a community lineup that we'll put into a big GPP here at Calls. So make sure you stick around and voice your opinion on who you want to see in that community lineup. So we have a lot to get into. Let's not waste any time. All statistics provided tonight and moving forward are from both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole over at BetSperts. The Rabbit Hole is acquiring or merging with Fantasy National, so I'm in the process myself of migrating all my data over to the Rabbit Hole formatting. Slow process, but almost there. But make sure you are subscribed to the Rabbit Hole. It has everything you need weekly for the PGA Tour to make the right wagers, to optimize your lineups. It has a tournament simulator, a lot of articles from the great minds in the industry. They've even started to bring over a lot of the old functionality from Fantasy National. They are continuously updating, adding metrics. I can't say enough great things about the Rabbit Hole. Make sure you are subscribed there. It is well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research early in the week regarding course and tournament info, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. I've had to put that on hold until I get all caught up, migrating all of my files. That will resume shortly, I think. More on that, towards the end of the show, but I think that'll resume here fairly soon. So when it does, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play that comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players I've wagered with my own money and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Highly recommend that you check that out and subscribe to it. It is free to do so. It's a great way to start your week of preparation. He continues to update you with his own version of research throughout the week. Can't say enough great things, having worked with Gabe now for quite a while. Just subscribe to his article. It is well worth your time to read. And again, it is free right now. And show him some support. Follow him over on social media. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you. Anything and everything. BMW Championship. Put your thoughts and opinions into chat. Would be more than happy to hear from you and to discuss with you. I also have a poll question typed up that I'd love to hear from you all on. And then, of course, while we're here, if you want to take a look at a deep statistical dive into a player or you have a lineup question, feel free to put those in chat. If you're not able to catch a show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2026 BMW Championship. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday night over at the Super Forecast for St. Louis, Missouri, and the BMW Championship. Don't mind me as I'm trying to move a couple of things out of my way here. Good evening, Z. Good evening, Muson. Thanks for jumping in chat, both of you. Much appreciated. Let me post this poll question very, very quickly and center this camera. Z says, Scotty back-to-back. Muson, we're going to try and make it money time. I've had a couple of down weeks after, running pretty darn hot around the Open Championship. A little bit before that and then after at the 3M. So we are definitely going to try and get back to money time, as you say. But this poll question kind of answers how you are approaching this week. How many players from the 6K range are you using this week? Are you not using any at all? Are you going pure balanced lineups? Do you have one or two? Maybe you're spreading yourself out 3 or 4. Or do you have 5 players or more? Actually, I wanted to edit that. Let me end this. I'm sorry. We're going to get back to that here in a second. I meant to say 5 plus. So let me retype that up very quickly. Using in the 6Ks this week. So my apologies. I just realized I had a slight typo there. But how's your all's night going? We'll be back to the regular show here in just a moment. 5 plus, playing tons of shuffler. Okay, my apologies for that. Let's try that again. There is the updated poll. Hey, good evening, Rose. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you're ready for the BMW Championship this week. And if not, this is why hopefully why you're here, to ask any last minute questions that you might have. So my apologies on the delay there in terms of the start. I had a typo in the poll question. But, how many 6K plays are you using this week? Kind of answers what kind of lineups you're building. Are you building all balanced lineups? Do you only have a small handful, 3 or 4, or do you have 5 plus in your player pool, meaning you are spreading out and playing a lot of Scotty? So we'd love to hear the community's thoughts on that this week. We look at the forecast for Belle-Reve, and this is very calm. Not a whole lot going on. Having said that, they did have a little bit of rain today. It has been pretty saturated in the Midwest so far this year. I can attest to that, being in the Great Lakes Midwest. We have had a very, very wet summer. Lots of rain, lots of storms, very similar to St. Louis. So it is going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say damp, but it's going to be more soft than what people probably think. They've had a lot of rain there in the summer. Now, we don't have any rain in the forecast for Thursday or Friday. Very, very little wind, in fact. It will be hot, highs near 90, but no rain or precipitation in the forecast for the tournament, which is great. It looks like it's just a week of play the guys that you think are going to play Belle-Reve the best, especially since we have a 50-man field, no cut. They're going to go all off of the first tee. Just play the guys that you think are best. No wind to consider. We don't have any gusty winds or anything, at least in terms of the forecast for Belle-Reve. So really not a whole lot to dissect here. I'm not going to look at calm winds, but if you wanted to think about the players who you think are best when it's calm, there you go. But otherwise, it's just it's going to be hot, but probably the way that the tournament wants it, with no precipitation in seemingly in the forecast for St. Louis. So with that, we are going to go over to the rabbit hole and BetSperts Golf and take a quick look at a couple of things. We just looked at that forecast. So yeah, we'll take a quick look at performance in light winds. It's just at the bottom of your screen there. Wind in light winds, very little wind. Top performers have been Scotty, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantlay, Siwoo, Jake Knapp, Nikolai Højgaard, Justin Rose, Rory, Alex Fitzpatrick, Cameron Young, and Michael Brennan, for what it is worth. I did not factor this in to my considerations at all, but if you wanted to see it, there it is. And that brings me to a little bit of a larger point here, that I've been pretty upfront all week about how I didn't follow golf very much, or not near to the level I do now back in 2018 when we last saw Bellerive. So I don't really know Bellerive. This is going to be interesting for me to see how much I get right this week. And I could be way off. I very much could be. But I don't think a lot of people have the greatest idea of how it's going to play. They've made a lot of changes to the course since they played the 2018 PGA. So I don't think it's wise or correct to just take 2018's PGA Championship as gospel of how it's going to play this week. I don't. That's why I didn't really put in any difficult metrics into the mixed condition model. Once we get there, you could obviously make the case to look at long courses, and we'll talk about that when we reveal the rankings. But I didn't really have a whole lot of an idea on how Bellerive's going to play. I could see 10 under, like what the majority of the field shot last week. I could also see 18 under if it's not set up as difficult as a PGA Championship, since this isn't a major. I don't think anybody truly knows. So with that, I was a little bit conservative in terms of my mixed condition model, and I really just focused on who's been playing well recently. Like, a lot of these metrics are in the past 24 rounds, with the exception of like bent putting. I had to expand the time frame to give players enough rounds to make it significant. So this isn't based on rounds. This is based on time frame. I think par fours are for the calendar year, not just the last 24 rounds. So I really was a little bit conservative in that regard, and I just wanted to see the guys who are playing the best right now. So speaking of my model for the BMW this week, we are going to start with 15% off the tee. You notice that I don't have any total performance. Like I said, I didn't put any performance on difficult or long courses. You might have been able to make the argument of, Robert Trent Jones designs, RTJ designs, since this is an RTJ design, but I didn't do that. So I didn't do any total performance. We're going straight directly into the specific statistics. Good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Sweating a WNBA bet. Last leg to win 212. Good luck. Is the leg tonight or the game going on tonight? Either way, best of luck with that. And of course, if you have success in wagering endeavors, it doesn't have to be golf. WNBA, NFL is going to be coming up. Obviously, a very, very popular fantasy sport. Fantasy baseball. If you have success, let me know. I would love to be able to shout out members of the community when you have success. Miles over 30 and a half. Well, good luck. I do not follow the WNBA, so I wish you luck in your wagering endeavor. But yeah, make sure you let me know whatever it is. That way I can give you your due shout out when the next week's shows happen. Although we'll get to it. I don't think I'm doing the Tour Championship next week. But anyway, we're not here for that. We're here for the BMW. Like I said, 15% off the tee. This course is long, and I do think that there is going to be an emphasis on distance. Driver heavy, at least it was in 2018. I don't see that changing, especially since there is a high rough penalty. It's not the easiest to play from if you hit it in the fairway bunkers. I think players are going to have to be long and straight this week, with a little bit of emphasis on distance. So 15% off the tee, 15% in total driving. Again, total driving is the sum of a player's length and accuracy. If a player is first in length, first in accuracy, their sum is 2, and then that's going to be the best that you can get. So, for example, if we go to the off the tee page view, like your best total driver has been Alex Fitzpatrick, let's go 24 rounds. Best total driver has been Gary Woodland, last 24 rounds, 10th in distance, 11th in accuracy, gives him a sum of 21. That is the best, whereas you have Victor Hovland's a 26, and a 28, 30, 30, etc., etc., etc. I do think it is going to be important to be long and straight this week at Bellerive. So I did not want to ignore the accuracy portion of this. A lot of emphasis off the tee. I think this is going to be a heavy ball striking course. Off the tee and approach. So 15% off the tee, 15% total driving, 5% in carry distance, not driving distance. With the way I understand it, Bellerive has quite a bit of contouring in their fairways, which we weren't able to see Sunday night in the Pro Visualizer 3D overview. But apparently there's a lot of contouring to these fairways. And again, even though there's no rain in the forecast this week, it has been pretty wet there in St. Louis in August, especially. So I do think the course is going to play extra long, and I don't think players like Chris Goddard or Russell Henley, who hit those low, tumbling drives, I don't think they're going to get as much rollout this week. So I just want to see the guys who can flat out hit it the furthest in the air. Because I would not be surprised if you are limited to about, 2-3 yards of rollout. I know that doesn't sound much, but it's rained a lot there. So 5% carry distance, 20% strokes gain approach. Again, with me admitting that I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about Bellerive, this is kind of a default go-to for me. But I do think there's going to be added emphasis in iron play. These greens, although they are very large, they have the Don Ross characteristic of having these quadrants. And you are going to have to be able to hit the correct quadrants to give yourself any kind of chance to score here. So it's not just enough to hit the greens. 20% strokes gain approach. 5% opportunities gained from 101 to 150. Really, I'm wanting the 126 to 150 range. If we take a look at Bellerive, just very quickly, and this is from 2018, so it's not going to be perfect by any means, but you see 50 to 125, very few shots came from that range. 125 to 150, about 1.5% more. 175 to 200, slightly more. 150 to 175, 2% more. 200 plus was actually a little bit less. Siwoo Prop missed across like 4 tickets on 1,300 to the first. Oof, that hurts. I still think we're going to get a few wedge opportunities this week with some of these shorter par fours. I'm thinking like the first 2 holes, 424, 427. You have a couple of sub 400 yard par fours. I do think players will have a fair amount of wedges throughout the week, but the more common approach shot is going to be these long irons. And this is my lean this week. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will own up to it. I just don't know Bellerive that well, but how long this course is, the 2 par 5s are going to demand 200 plus approaches if guys are going to attack them in 2. You've got 2 500 plus yard par 4s, several 480 plus par 4s. It's going to be long. And I think you're going to get mitigated rollout, as we talked about in terms of the carry distance. So I think you're going to have to be very good with your long irons. This 201 scoring opportunities also includes 2 of the par 3s. Two of the par threes are over 215 yards. So I think the most important skill set this week is going to be long irons. If I'm wrong, then this model is not going to be very good for obvious reasons. But that is where my lean is this week for Belle Reve. So 10% opportunities gained in the long irons. 5% around the green. I would have liked to have put more in here. I really wanted to emphasize the approach. Maybe you take off 5% and off the tee or 5% total driving, but I really wanted to emphasize the ball striking aspect this week. I do think around the green is going to be important because these greens will get missed, but 5% around the green, 5% bent putting. We're looking for bent specialists. These are bent greens. And then lastly, as a par 70, you're going to have to play well on these par 4s. 10% on par 4 performance. There's a look at the mixed condition model. Again, hopefully I've given you the reasoning and my thought process on why I've included what I've included, areas where I'll be weak or ways that this model won't produce the results we're looking for. Could very well happen considering my lack of knowledge of Belle Reve, but this is how I am approaching this week. On to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings for the BMW. And for your information, if you're a new viewer, and as a reminder for returning viewers, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The rabbit hole rank. The rabbit hole will assign a ranking or rank the players in numerical order based on the mixed condition model we just talked about. Metrics, percentages, time frames, all that. Rabbit hole will rank players based on the model. Course value is an attempt at giving that player a numerical value at how well they have played normally that course the last 5 years. This is for tournament. I don't like doing this a lot, but I'll explain why I included this even though we haven't seen Belle Reve since 2018. So we'll put an asterisk on this. I'll come back to it momentarily. And then the third and final portion of my rankings, or third factor, if you will, we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options off of our fellow contestants. So projected ownerships are also a part of my rankings. The more unique a player is, the better. These 3 numbers get put into a complicated mathematical formula. The computer smokes and grinds and does all of its calculations and spits out what you see here. My number 1 player for the week is Cameron Young. Not too highly owned. Second by just the metrics, and has played BMW championships fairly well. Do note that this is going back to 2023. I'll explain why again here in a moment. So he comes out as number 1. Hard to argue against Tom Kim being number 2. This might not feel like a good Tom Kim fit. I understand that. But with the emphasis of the mixed condition model of all of, just being all last 24 rounds, Tom Kim is one of the hottest golfers on the planet right now. So that's why he is catapulting up, even though some of this stuff might not seem like it fits him, like off the tee. He is very middling in this field. Total driving. He's actually not been the best lately with opportunities gained from 201 plus. He doesn't have a lot of carry distance. So I don't think I would put Tom Kim second if I were ranking the field, just blindly by name. But understand that he is rising with the emphasis in all of the recent form, very recent form. Sam Burns third, Alex Fitzpatrick fourth. We'll talk about him considering I've been high on him for 2 weeks and it's been an utter disaster. And Scotty Scheffler's fifth. You see, truly number 1 by the analytics. He's falling because he is the most popular player on the slate. Michael Brennan, Patrick Cantlay, Tommy, Victor, and Xander round out my top 10. Okay, very quickly, let's talk about the BMW Championships. The BMW, oops, sorry, wrong, I knew I would do that. Wrong tab. Okay. The BMW Championship went to the 50-man no-cut format in 2023 when the St. Jude went to the 70. Take a look at the courses that we have played at the BMW Championship the past 3 years. It won't be, I think Caves Valley was last year. Or it might have been 2 years ago, but we were at Caves Valley, last year. Scotty wins. But look at the course. Par 70, like we're on now, 7,600 yards, a very long par 70. Now, a lot of the other stuff might be different, like these are smaller greens, etc. But I'm just going by, a general feel. Very long par 70, driver heavy. All right. 2024, we are at Castle Pines in Colorado. Par 72, 8,000 yards, but you're also at elevation. So again, a long course. Driver heavy. Smaller-ish greens. Bent and POA, but still some bent. Okay, so two very similar style courses there. 2023, Olympia Fields, I believe is just outside Chicago. Par 70, almost 7,400 yards. Driver heavy. Smaller-ish greens. These are going to be really big this week, but there's a pattern here. There's a pattern of these long par 70s that have generally been pretty difficult. And I do think that Belle Reve will play more difficult than easy this week. If I had to lean one way or the other, I would say difficult. I'm just not completely confident in that. That's why there wasn't any of that in the mixed condition model. But all of these courses are similar in that regard. They are long or very long par 70s. Castle Pines was a 72, but at 8,000 yards. Driver heavy, mostly bent. There's a lot of similarities. So that's why I felt comfortable going back to 2023 and bringing in a player's performance at the BMW Championship. I gave this very, very little weight in terms of how much it factored into the rankings, but I thought the courses were similar enough that you could take a look at past BMW Championships, especially guys who have maybe played 2 of the 3 or even all 3 and maybe not been as good, like an Akshay Bhatia, like an Eric Cole. That's why they have some of the highest course values, because they haven't been good. Adam Scott's played 1, he finished 2nd. That's, amazing. Gerard played 1, he finished 44th. So he's got a really high one. So I thought it was close. These courses are similar enough to maybe factor in some past BMW championships. Okay, let's talk about the obvious. Alex Fitzpatrick. I have backed him for 2 weeks, and it has been brutal. Gosh dang it, I did it again. Let me just pull this over to this other side, so that way I don't even mess with it. I want this one. It's been brutal. It's been brutal for Alex Fitzpatrick lately. And that's why I haven't had a lot of success, because I've banked on Alex Fitzpatrick. That said, I'm going back to the well again. 3rd time's the charm, right? Well, either that or I'm just completely insane, expecting a different result. Either way, everything I've said about Alex Fitzpatrick the past couple of weeks has stood. Now, he did not hit his irons very well last week. That's a change. But he has generally been elite ball striking. I think Belle Reve is going to reward ball striking. He just hasn't made a freaking putt at all. Loses 5 last week at the St. Jude, 2.5 at the Wyndham, 10 at the Open Championship, Bermuda, Fescue. Travelers is Benton Poa. He was much better. U.S. Open, Benton Poa, much better. What are we on this week? Bent. RBC Canadian Open, Benton Poa. Memorial was bent. He was actually positive. I am praying to goodness that getting off Bermuda helps him. Because I still believe in the ball striking. Yes, it's not comforting to see him lose strokes on approach last week, but Southwind is hard. Southwind's just flat out hard. You take a look at like Quail Hollow. This feels like a decent Quail Hollow comparison, even if they don't have Quail Hollow. They do have Quail Hollow as a comparison course. Like this feels like a decent comparison to Quail Hollow. Finished top 5. Doral, he finished top 10. Like he can handle these long, difficult courses. He's just got a putt, and I'm hoping that getting off Bermuda gets him at least to field average. If he putts to 2.75 in the positive, hooray. We just gotta avoid this 5, this 10, this 2.5, and I'm hoping the fact that he gets off Bermuda does that, because everything else lines up very, very well for Alex Fitzpatrick. He is an excellent ball striker on a course that should reward excellent ball striking. I've said this for at least a week. I also played him at Sedgefield. It's been a disaster 2 weeks in a row. So if you don't feel comfortable using Alex Fitzpatrick, I get it. I'm going to the well one more time. Good evening, P. Good evening, Simple. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. You just missed out me talking about Olympia Fields a moment ago, P. You would have been able to help us out with that, being outside of Chicago there, and it's fairly local to you. But good to see you in chat. Now you're having to travel to the Midwest and St. Louis for Belle Reve, and as fellow Cubs fans, we don't have very many nice things to say about St. Louis, do we? But we'll do what we can and hopefully conquer St. Louis this week. Good evening, Simple. M for the win. Needs to rebound from last week. I don't hate Sungjae this week. I don't know if I'm going to pick him to win. But I don't mind Sungjae. So there's the talk about Alex Fitzpatrick. Otherwise, like Michael Brennan, I don't think I'd put up here in terms of in the top 10, but with all the emphasis in ball striking, and particularly off the tee, when he's been great lately off the tee, he's actually given himself a whole lot of opportunities, especially with the long irons. That's why he's climbing a lot. Oh yeah, I've played Olympia Fields 3 times. St. Louis is terrible. Brennan's second in carry distance, so that's why he's rising third, just purely by the model. President's Cup Medina, that should be fun. I will definitely have a week of shows for the President's Cup this year. So be on the lookout for that in the fall. I'll be live in the fall for every event, but I will still do a President's Cup week of shows. So that's why Brennan's rising. I can take it or leave it. He seems fairly popular. Cantlay, Tommy, Hovland, Xander, they're all hovering in this 15 to 20%. So they're going to be popular. Makes a lot of sense. So enough rambling. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants are going at various areas of the price board, and how we are going to maneuver around them. In the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, we have 4 players this week. Scotty at a robust 14,400, Rory at 11,400, Tommy at 10,900, Sam Burns at 10,400. Good evening, Hanka. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Apologies to the community for Bobby Mack's selection last week. Takes full responsibility. You know what? I commend you for that. I'm never one to shy away from my bad picks. I just spent 5 minutes talking about how I've backed Alex Fitzpatrick for the past couple of weeks. So nobody's immune to it. But I believe it was you maybe a couple of weeks ago that jokingly mentioned that you were in timeout after a poor selection in the community lineup. Bobby Mack did you no favors in that regard of avoiding timeout. I am joking as always, Hanka. You are more than welcome to shout out players you want to use for the community lineup. We're just having a little fun here. But yeah, in the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, I was set to play 3 of these guys, and really only heavily play 2 of them and dabble a third. But if this projected ownership is truly correct with Rory, this is an example of the pendulum swinging way too far the other way. He played horrible last week at the St. Jude. Not going to deny that at all. But you could see that coming. He's not good on Bermuda. He hadn't really done much with the irons. He came in a month off, and he had never really truly played Southwind all that well. Yeah, he had a top 5 finish in 2023, but he's been really bad at TBC Southwind. The St. Jude is not a good course for Rory. You could see that performance coming. Maybe not 66th out of 68, but you could see a disappointing finish coming. Now he comes to Bellerive, which is bent, his best surface, where the driver will play much better, and you're getting a humongous ownership discount on Rory. Yes, the irons have not been good in 4 straight tournaments. I get that. Is it worrisome? Absolutely. But when you're playing DFS in a small field event like this with only 50 players, one of the most important factors is how unique you are. Can't stress that enough. I'm going to play a little bit of Rory. I'm not going crazy with it because I still have concerns. You know, the putter, those irons haven't been good lately. But I am still going to play Rory because he is by far and away a huge pivot off of the other 3. I mean, he is 2.5 times less owned or projected owned than Scotty. I understand Scotty just won. Not a whole lot of questions about his form. I get it. Rory has traditionally played BMW championships pretty well. Again, long, driver-heavy courses. When does Rory do a lot of his damage? Or how does he do it? With the driver. This is a much better fit for Rory. If you only play one lineup for the BMW, I cannot recommend you play Rory in that one lineup. I can't. But Rory's going to give you the best opportunity to really catapult, to really vault yourself up in these big GPP contests because of how unique he is. Now, if you're playing double-ups, if you're playing 50-50s, if you're making one lineup that you're just trying to get, a minimal return on investment, I would not play Rory. Rory is the absolute boomer bust. And I think there's a non-zero chance he booms this week. So I'm going to play Rory maybe about 10% roughly. I'd say 3 to 5 lineups in the mini lineups that I play. I do have some Rory. This is just the pendulum of ownership has swung way too far negative, or the narrative has swung too far negative for Rory. Still number 1 off the tee lately. Still 3rd in par 4s. Still 3rd in distance. The 2nd best putter on bent in this field. Yes, he's got a lot of pink and red statistics. He hasn't given himself a lot of opportunities. He hasn't been great around the green. He's been one of the worst from 200 plus. I get it. The irons haven't been great lately. I get it. This is an ownership play. This is absolutely an ownership play that you need to consider Rory very heavily if you play multiple lineups. Tom Kim, Wyndham Clark, Brennan M. Fowler, Woodland for my Mad Scientist card. Screw the Tier 1 players. There's a few guys in there I like, and then I'm going to have to poo-poo on a couple of them there, simple. But I don't, again, in a small 50-man field, you have to get creative. And we're going to show that in lineup building tonight. You have to get creative. Leaving $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on the table is an excellent way to make sure you don't get duplicated. So I don't hate the idea, simple. I don't like all of the players you're choosing to use, but I love the idea. I want to take back what I said Monday about fading Rory. I think he used Memphis as a practice session and finally found some game late. He did play well Sunday. So, again, there's enough questions here that, you probably shouldn't go all in on Rory, but you really need to consider him if this ownership is indeed true. This projected ownership is indeed true. With me playing more Rory than I thought, that means Tommy's getting less for me. I spent quite a bit Monday night talking about how, my usage of Sam Burns and Tommy Fleetwood would kind of depend on what their ownerships are. I figured Sam Burns would be more projected owned than Tommy, but if it's this close, just give me Sam Burns. He's been better lately. I understand he hasn't closed a tournament when he's been in contention, but he's at least been in contention. Tommy has a lot of great results, but other than the St. Jude, in which he also melted on Sunday like Sam Burns did, when has Tommy really been in contention to win the tournament? Sam Burns has been in contention to win. Tommy racks up a lot of top 5s and a lot of top 10s, but really isn't threatening to win. That's a valuable asset, definitely, but just give me Sam Burns. Number 1 in irons lately. Giving himself lots of opportunities. Par 4 scoring. Best putter on bent in the past year and a half. Just, if these two ownerships are comparable, give me Sam Burns. And then, of course, I will play a little bit of Scotty. I don't love my Scotty lineups this week, but I am playing him. He is the number 1 player at a course that is kind of unknown or is unknown. Just give me the best player. Remember you showed Belle Reve from 2018 and 2008? Does that mean no games were played there since? Nothing. Nothing has been played at Belle Reve since 2018. Not officially. Obviously they have like their own club stuff, but nothing professionally has played at Belle Reve since the 2018 PGA Championship. At least on the PGA Tour. I don't think the ladies have been over there. I don't think the senior tour has been there. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers that simple. I will play Scotty. I'm not going to bet Scotty. He's 3-1. I can't in good faith bet somebody 3-1 in a golf tournament. But I am going to play some Scotty. I don't like my lineups. I'll show you how I'm building my Scotty lineups. But what's there to say? Everyone was critiquing Scotty, thinking he couldn't win or wondering when he could win. He goes and wins by 8 last week. It's fine. So I knew I was going to play Scotty. I knew I was going to play Sam Burns in some capacity. Because of his such low ownership, I am going to play more Rory, which means Tommy gets squeezed. I'm only playing him a couple of times. So that's how I see the 5 digits. Scotty and Sam Burns, more Rory than I thought, less Tommy than I thought. Moving to the 9s. This was pretty hard for me to separate. As you can see, all of them rated out inside, the top 20. Most of them 10 through 20, with the exception of my number 1 player, Cameron Young. I'm going to play metric F-tons of Cameron Young this week. Much like Alex Fitzpatrick, I'm hoping the change from Bermuda to bent is just more comfortable for him. He's been playing well, 12th in irons, 5th off the tee, We all know about his capabilities with the driver as well. You look at his major performances. If you think Bell Reeves is going to play like a major, Cameron Young was what, second, third, something to that effect. Give me lots of Cameron Young this week. And it also helps that he's seemingly less owned than Ludwig, less owned than Xander, and quite a bit less owned than Hideki. Metric F tons, that's right. In my opinion, will the winner have a 15 to 19 or more than 20? I'm going to say 15 to 19, simple, but I'm not very confident on it. I don't think we get to 20. I think, if anything, it's going to play tougher and be like the St. Jude last week where, yes, Scotty got to 17, but second place was at 9. I think we're going to be on that end of the spectrum as opposed to 20, 19, a couple at 18 under, 17, 15, things like that. I think we're going to err more on the side of like 16 under, 4 under a day, I think wins this week. Hideki. Look, we've talked about Hideki a lot in the past couple of weeks. I've talked about how I deploy Hideki in these situations, especially since he's popular. I would rather outright Hideki than depend on him in DFS. 5 or 6 straight top 15 finishes, 4 straight top 10s. The driver is cooperating. The irons are going well. He's been otherworldly around the green. There's nothing here to be upset about. It's just much like Rory is an ownership play. Hideki is an ownership play, and I would rather outright Hideki than depend on him in DFS. So I'm going to play quite a bit less of Hideki in DFS. Doesn't mean I don't like him. I do. I'm just betting him to win, or one of my bets to win. I have a few. So just be mindful of that. Everything else in here is fine. Like I said, I'm going to play a lot of Cameron Young, number 1 player, only one inside the top 10, and maybe Xander, but only one clearly inside the top 10 and not the most widely owned. I also don't understand why Matt Fitzpatrick's like 12%. He's the pivot in this area. It wasn't too long ago Matt Fitzpatrick was everybody's choice to win the U.S. Open and then the Open Championship. Like, why? I mean, yeah, the bit there's not great, but it's not like Matt Fitzpatrick has fallen off a cliff. He missed the cut at the Open, sure, and he played well last week. Finished inside the top 15. 3rd at the Genesis, 4th at the Travelers, 2nd in the RBC Canadian. I mean, 3-time winner this year. Why is Matt Fitzpatrick at 12%? I don't get it. So I'm going to play. I'm going to play more Matt Fitzpatrick than I thought I was going to, based on this ownership. So in the 9Ks, I'm playing mostly these two. I like Ludwig. It makes a lot of sense, at least conceptually, that this course would fit him. So he's also going to be pretty popular. It's fine. I played him a middling amount. I actually played Xander a little bit. I've been off of Xander for a while now. He's back to being fairly consistent. The putter isn't, but he's still putting up results. So I'll play Xander. This doesn't feel like a great Siwoo fit with the emphasis in distance. His total driving is because of his accuracy. You look at the distance, not great. It's fine. If you're a big Siwoo believer, sure. I played him a little bit. Let's just say I played all of the players in the 10Ks. I played all the players in the 9Ks. That means I'm going to have to make a stand somewhere because you can't play everybody, right? Well, it starts in the 8s. I had to make a lot of tough decisions here in the 8s. I'm going to play Victor. He is by far and away seemingly the most popular in the 8Ks. Couldn't get away from Victor. His irons have been red hot lately. We all know how good he can be with the driver. The problem is he's been the worst player at giving himself opportunities with long irons. So that's not great. So it's a little troubling, but I couldn't get away from it. And I'll play a little bit of Patrick Cantlay. He generally, like Tommy Fleetwood, probably isn't going to contend, but he's probably good for a T12. That's what Patrick Cantlay does. Elsewhere in the eights, I had to make a lot of difficult decisions. I know you'll laugh, but Clark is going to win this. You heard it here first. I bet Wyndham Clark to win because this feels like a good Wyndham Clark fit. But I really backed off of him in DFS because of the ownership. Again, 50 million field. There's only so many places that you can go for uniqueness. There's only so many places that your fellow contestants can go to make it different. This is just too much ownership for a player that has such a wide range of outcomes. Very much the same like Hideki. Hideki has a wide range of outcomes. Wyndham Clark has a wide range of outcomes. He could very well win this thing. He could also hit the ball to different area codes and finish 48th. I would rather outright bet that guy. Bet that player. So I'm not laughing at you. I'm just choosing to use him in different, or I'm choosing to have exposure to him in different ways. So I really backed off Wyndham Clark in terms of DFS. I didn't play any Chris Goddard. I wanted to, but you can't play everybody. And it was really hard for me to separate the nines. I told you how Rory kind of threw a wrench into my plans by being so low projected ownership that I'm going to play some Rory. I got to start making some cuts somewhere. So Chris Goddard was a cut. Russell Henley was a cut. This does not feel like a great Russell Henley course, even though he's been good on long courses in the past. But he's kind of struggled from 201 plus. Second least in terms of driving distance to Aaron Rai. I don't think Russell Henley's going to get near the rollout that he's used to. Not the best putter on bent either, so Russell Henley was a cut. Justin Thomas was a cut. And probably one of the more controversial for me, Jake Knapp was a cut for me. I know he's starting to play a lot better, but this is my bold selection, I guess. I'm just going to fade Jake Knapp. I wanted to play him, but he's popular. So I'm going to bank on, a more unique Rory, a more unique Matt Fitzpatrick, a little bit more unique maybe in the 7K guys. I will play a little bit of Tom Kim just because of how well he's playing lately, but I'm not in love with it. So that's how I see the eights. This is where I had to start making a lot of difficult decisions, and it started in here. I will play a lot of Victor Hovland. I'll play a decent amount of Patrick Cantlay. Sprinkled a little bit of Tom Kim. Everybody else pretty much was on the chopping block. Goddard, no. Morikawa, no. Here's another thing with Colin Morikawa. With Morikawa, we used to say that as long as he putt halfway decent, he was going to win. Because that was his worst, That was the thing that was holding him back. That was his worst skill set. It's not really the case anymore. He gained 3 1/4 at the Open. Only top 20. Gained 3 at the Travelers. Top 5, sure. Because he ball struck the ever-living daylights out of it. Gained 5 at the U.S. Open. You would think gaining 5 would be Colin Morikawa running away by 10. Only finished inside the top 20. We know that he lacks some distance as well. This is another bold selection for me. He's also not been all that great historically at BMW championships, especially the 3 years that I collected. Best being a top 25. I mean, again, you just can't play everybody. Can you look at Goddard for me? Bent stats starting to come around on him to this week. He's fine on bent. It's not spectacular, but it's fine. It's not like he is Poa. My thing with Goddard, though, is I don't know how much rollout he's going to get. Because he hits those low, stinging drives. I think that's not going to play as well this week. He's lost 3 straight in the short game, all 6 categories around the green and putting. The last 3 tournaments. His only BMW, he was like 33rd last year. You can forgive that. I don't know. This is more of like a gut feeling on Goddard. I don't know if I can filter. Can I filter bent? Yeah. So here's his bent performance. Like John Deere, of course, he put the ever-living daylights out. Wins of the John Deere. But the Rocket wasn't great. Masters wasn't great. I don't know. Like I said, I had to start making some tough decisions. Goddard was one of those tough decisions, Hanka. If you like Goddard, I'm not going to try and steer you away from him, especially since he seems to be quite a bit more unique than Hideki, and a decent amount more unique than Victor and Wyndham Clark. He could very well get squeezed in terms of ownership, and if that's the case, you're sitting pretty if he plays well. But like I said, I went with carry distance. He's still 9th in this field, but like driving distance, he's like 3rd. I don't know. Like I said, tough decisions to make. Moving into the 7s. Everybody's playing Kurt Kitayama. I'm going to play Kurt Kitayama. Anytime you think about long irons, Kurt Kitayama should come to mind. And he's actually played pretty well recently. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Kitayama, pretty darn good on bent. A complete gain at the St. Jude last week. Pretty much almost a complete gain at the 3M. He hadn't missed a cut, which I understand there's no cut, but he hadn't missed a cut since the Players. There's a lot of green in here. You'll throw in some clunkers every once in a while, like at the Scottish, but I mean, I'm just very confident Kurt Kitayama is going to perform. Perform to a respectable level, because he is, the 21st most expensive player. So if you get a top 20 from Kurt Kitayama, you're kind of paying it off. I think he's pretty solid for a top 20. Thor Bjornsson I like a lot. He's getting a lot of attention. I'm a little surprised Michael Brennan's getting a lot of attention, to be honest with you. I was hoping he was going to be a little bit more sneaky, because I was pretty high on him, but I had to back off my ownership of Michael Brennan because he is seemingly pretty darn popular. Everybody's avoiding Bobby Mack. If you're willing to take the chance again, I don't think I hate it, but I would rather go somewhere else. Let's talk about Sungjae at 7,000. I like Sungjae. Played quite a bit of Sungjae. Sungjae is starting to put some things together. Complete game at the Rocket. Top 15. Played very, very well at the Open. Top 15. Top 15 at the Wyndham. Pretty much a complete game. And then last week, top 5 at the St. Jude. Pretty darn close to a complete game. He's starting to put some things together. And then you take a look at his BMW championships. Last year wasn't great because he lost 11 strokes on approach. I don't even know how you lose 11 strokes on approach. What, he just whiffed twice or something? I don't even know. But beyond that, top 15, top 10, top 15, top 5. He's generally pretty darn good in these limited field, no-cut events. So I played quite a bit of Sungjae. I'm a little surprised that he's only at 13% here. My guess is he'll probably be more like 15%, but that's fine. I played quite a bit of Sung Jae. So in the sevens, lots of Kitayama. I did dabble some Spawn. I played quite a bit of Thorbjornsen. This feels like a pretty good fit for him. Dabbled a little bit of Brennan and played quite a bit of Sung Jae. In the 6Ks, there honestly not a whole lot I like, but I had to come down here more often than not because I wanted to make sure I played some Scotty. So I'm going to give you 2 or 3 players. One of them's really going to surprise you. First guy, Alex Smalley. I talked about how I wasn't a believer in Alex Smalley last week because I thought he got a bump playing a home game at Sedgefield. Then he comes back to Southwind in top 25s. Played pretty darn well, to be fair to Alex Smalley. And we've got now 3 tournaments in a row where he's played okay. The Open was okay. The Wyndham was great. St. Jude was good. I don't know if we're getting back to this Alex Smalley, but we're certainly trending better than what we had been Memorial, U.S. Open, Scottish, etc. So I am going to play some Alex Smalley, especially since his preferred surface quite clearly is bent. We all know that I'm still going to Alex Fitzpatrick, so either the third time's the charm or I'm clinically insane expecting a different outcome doing the same thing over and over again. It's one of those two after this week. Either one is a viable option. But I'm going to play Alex Fitzpatrick. Rio's fine. I worry about the distance. And Rio's putter is bad. Like bad right now. But I don't think he'll take himself out of the tournament. He's generally not going to spray the ball everywhere. So if he's finding fairways, he's going to be useful. But I worry about his lack of distance. And I'm going to say a name here that is probably going to cause you to just riot. Probably throw your computer monitor, tell me that I'm an idiot, all of this stuff. But there is one skill set that I'm latching onto this week. It's long irons. And I want you to take a look at Matt McCarty. Matt McCarty, even though the irons don't suggest it here, if you take a look at opportunities from 201 plus, you got a lot of green in here. A lot of green. In fact, if we go to that page view, scoring opportunities, 201 plus, McCarty is third. Again, I am focused on a couple of skill sets. His driver is absolute trash. He hasn't gained strokes off the tee since the Charles Schwab when he gained 300ths. His driver is trash. The irons haven't been good lately, with the exception of the 201. But he's a good enough putter on bent. And even though he doesn't hit it a long way, you know what course is really long and forces driver into your hand? Augusta. And he plays well at Augusta. What are those greens? Bent. It's not a lot to go on. I get it. Clip all of this whenever he finishes 50th by shooting a Bobby Mack 82 round some point this week. I get it. All I'm saying is that at the literal dumpster dive price of $6,000, the bare minimum, he has something going for him. Whereas these other guys, I don't think do. Like Sepp, I don't have any confidence in Sepp right now. Tagala, I don't have any confidence in Sahith Tagala right now. Batia's driver is just as broken. All I'm saying is Matt McCarty's got a lot of warts, but he's third in opportunities from 200 plus, and he's a decent putter on bent. I know this is a dumb reason, but I saw the word Cole today. Any chance Eric Cole can win this? I don't think so. What has Eric Cole done lately? I don't think so. He good putter on bent. It's a good start. St. Jude was really bad last week. The one area he gained was around the green. Wyndham was okay. He doesn't have a lot going for him at the moment. Like, he really picked up all of his points around the Masters. From Masters to Memorial. Top 10 the Memorial, runner-up the Charles Schwab. Top 10 an alternate field event. Top 15 the Valero the week before the Masters. Like, he hadn't played well in a while. And then I don't think he has played a BMW. He's played 2 BMW championships. Not to rousing success. What about two gloves Rye? But nobody was on him at the PGA and he won, right? I mean, that's always a danger. But he's not playing like Aaron Rye lately. The putter has kind of gone away. He's never really consistent with the putter, but like, I don't know. Wyndham, he gained 2. And that was his spike when he needs to gain like 6. And even the irons aren't consistent right now. P. On these big boy golf courses, like these BMW championships, the Masters, even like Quail Hollow, it's been okay, but nothing great. I don't hate it, P. I really don't. Like, Rye was one of the last cuts in the 6Ks for me. I wanted to make sure I used a little bit of McCarty just because of the long irons. I used Ryo Itsatsune. I used Alex Noren. I used Smalley. And I got way too much Alex Fitzpatrick. So, could Rye absolutely play well? Sure. Absolutely. You're not wrong. Long irons, he's very good. I don't know. He was one of my last cuts, P. That's all I can say. You'll note that I haven't named 3 players. No, absolutely not on Tagala. Good Lord, no. I don't know. I don't want to say he's broken, but man, I don't know. 3 players here that are extremely popular in the 6Ks. Gary Woodland. Great story. Way too popular. Way too popular in the 6Ks. Now, yes, he played well here in 2018. Seems like it would be a good fit. He hasn't played well lately. St. Jude, not a good course for him. You can forgive that. Complete gain at the 3M. Open. Another long par 70. Didn't play well. Travelers. Didn't play well. Memorial didn't play well. I have no confidence that the irons are going to gain 3 or whatever that they did for the 3M in the U.S. Open. If they do, he might be good. But again, Gary Woodland is projected to be massively owned. I'll just let others take that chance. Ben Griffin, very, very popular. Can't play any Ben Griffin because of that. Or I didn't play any Ben Griffin because of that. Højgaard, fairly popular. Chris Rayton, fairly popular. This is why I don't like a lot of my Scotty lineups, because the guys I would have gone to are way too popular. So I had to try and find my way around it. So anyway, there's a look at the price board and where our fellow contestants are going. Get your suggestions ready for the community lineup. We'll build one together. But first, let's start building some lineups for our GPPs and how we are going to maneuver around where all this ownership is coalescing. Apologies. Okay. Scotty is seemingly our most projected owned player. And then our fellow contestants are going to a couple of players. Burn Griffin, apparently, is now his name. Gary Woodland. This might be a couple of different players here. Woodland clearly could be Ben Griffin. Maybe it's Sung Jae. Maybe it's Justin Rose. But this is kind of the boundary of these Scotty Scheffler lineups. I don't think you have enough to get Kurt Kitayama in here. So this is Adam Scott, Michael Brennan, and 77 is Bobby Mack. No, it's probably Thorbjornsen. This looks like a pretty chalky Scotty lineup with Thor, Brennan, assuming they're using Ben Griffin and Gary Woodland. Gary Woodland is clearly one of the two 6K players that these Scotty lineups are playing. Could be Justin Rose, could be Chris Rayton, could be Nikolai. I just went with the highest ownership. Either way, you cannot differentiate yourself enough with these players in a Scotty lineup. So that's why I was a little hesitant with it. I'll make a Scotty lineup here in a moment to show you what I was doing. The other lineup seemingly is probably something to the effect of Ludwig or Sam Burns. Hideki is in here. Victor, and maybe not Victor, Jake Knapp is in this. Kurt Kitayama. Bottoming out at probably Michael Brennan. Kitayama 79, Gerard. Again, it's Thorbjornsen. Let's use Ricky. This could very well be Thorbjornsen, but this looks like a more chalkier, balanced build. Right around the same total ownership as the Scotty lineup, but going Ludwig, maybe Sam Burns. Hideki's definitely in this. I dropped all the way to Jake Knapp to try to balance it out a little bit because of Kitayama, but maybe Jake Knapp is Victor Hovland and they go down to like Gary Woodland. That's also another possibility here. Yeah, Kurt Kitayama. I'll just throw Thorbjornsen into this one. He's a little bit more highly owned. Michael Thorbjornsen. What the hell? Oh. There we go. 110% projected ownership. Like, you're not going to be able to differentiate yourself enough with these kinds of lineups, even leaving a little bit of money on the table. So how do we maneuver around them? I'm going to show you 2 or 3 different styles of lineups. First, Scotty. Again, whether you're not comfortable going to Alex Fitzpatrick again like I am. I'm either insane or third time's a charm, but I'm going to go to Alex Fitzpatrick. He's still a little bit popular. The real crazy wild hair is to go to Matt McCarty. But, you know, if you're going to be a little bit more responsible than that, maybe you go like Rio Itsatsune. Alex Smalley. You go to Alex Smalley at 6,700. Depends on you know, how much you want to squeeze up top here. In fact, I like Smalley more than Rio. Why don't we do that? We're not going to be able to get as much up top here, but I do like Smalley this week. Nothing wrong with Sungjae. Sungjae at 7,000. Now you can kind of creep up into the 8s a little bit if you want. Maybe you like a Patrick Cantlay. Maybe you want to take a chance on a Jake Knapp. Tom Kim. Hey, good evening, Bishop. Mr. T. Bishop. Thanks for jumping to chat. Much appreciated. Take a look at Alex Noren. Absolutely, we can do that. I will tell you, I used Noren a little bit. Not my favorite play down in the 6Ks, but I did like him enough to throw in some of these Scotty lineups, or maybe get a little bit different off of like a Sungjae down in the low 7s. He's played really well the last 3 weeks. The game seems like it's come around a little bit. I do like the fact that he's gaining a whole lot with the ball striking, considering the irons were completely in the tank for the past couple of months. So this is positive. This is promising. He's been good at BMW championships, I suppose. A couple of top 10s, but he's also laid some clunkers in there. Like if we go to like Quail, what's he done at Quail? Okay, it's not been great, but it's not been horrible. I mean, the top 20 at the PGA at Quail is very good. Top 25 at the Wells Fargo, top 30 this year. What's some other courses here? Let's look at like Memorial Park in Houston. Okay, this is a much more promising. Memorial Park is a very good comp for this. Complete gain there a couple years ago. Like I said, was not my favorite 6K play, Bishop, but I did put him in a couple of lineups considering I play mini. So I could have, I wanted to have a little bit of exposure to him. So good shout there. Keep the questions coming. Absolutely. But to round out this Scotty Scheffler lineup, like, I know he's popular, but I'm just very confident in Kurt Kitayama. You can take a look at Kurt Kitayama. Thorbjornsen's probably a little bit too popular for this. But even so, the combination of Smalley, Alex Fitzpatrick, Sungjae, you're probably looking at a fairly decent, unique option. You might get duplicated once or twice in a big GPP, but this is going to be fairly unique, I think. Coming off the Gary Woodland chalk, coming off the Ben Griffin chalk. Alex, that's another thing. Alex Noren is a little bit popular for my liking, Bishop, so be aware of that. But this is how I've been building a lot of my Scotty lineups, like Alex Smalley and Fitz and Rio Itsatsune. It was really, really hard for me to get anything above like a Patrick Cantlay into a Scotty lineup. And a lot of times when I try to build Scotty lineups, I want to do something crazy like Scotty and Cameron Young and then load up here on the bottom. And it was I just really didn't like these lineups. This left me with Sungjae. I just thought you were way too far down in the 6Ks or having to use too many of them if you wanted to squeeze a second top tier guy this week into your Scotty lineup. So not my favorite, but I made sure to play a lot of Scotty. Another lineup that you can do, something that Simple kind of mentioned, is just to leave a lot of money on the table. Now I won't be doing that, but let's just say you ignore all of this up here. Let's just start our lineup with like a Cameron Young at 94. You're ignoring Scotty and Tommy and Sam Burns and Ludwig. Just start with Cameron Young. By doing this, you don't have to come down to the 6Ks at all. But if you do, you can make some really, really unique like style of lineups here. Like let's get interesting. Let's go like Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick. Hell, let's throw Hideki into this one. Why not? And it's all predicated because I don't mind going down to these 2 or 3 players down in the low 6s. You know, we're left with 9,100 again. Like, look at this lineup. You want to tell me that this lineup gets duplicated? I don't think so. 4 9s and 2 6s. Again, you don't have to worry about a cut. They're all going to play all 4 rounds unless they pull a Bobby Mack from last week. You got to get different. You got to get spicy. You got to get creative in how you build your lineups this week. You know, this is a way to do it. To still get, you know, some bigger names in here. Now, Matt Fitzpatrick is a little bit of a pivot, so that's why I went to him as opposed to maybe like stretching for a Ludwig. But like this is a unique shell of a lineup that I think could perform pretty darn well. Maybe you're not the biggest believer in Alex Fitzpatrick. Maybe you go to like Ryo Itatsune. Go to Ryan Fox, who just won the Open Championship. You know, whatever 6K play you want to go to, just stay away from Gary Woodland in these style lineups because that's going to catapult your total ownership. It's going to tank your total ownerships way too much. So that's one style of lineup. Normally I call it 3 9 and 3 7s, but you know, just starting balanced, then going greedy, and finishing it off like a Stars and Scrubs style lineup. That is going to be a very unique build this week, I think. Then, look, the guy is 10% owned. People are still on Woodland this week. I thought I was buying a dip. Woodland is the most projected owned player under 8,000 other than Kitayama. Kitayama's at 17.8. Gary Woodland's at 17%. Look, Rory's the pivot up here. And if you really want to stretch the uniqueness, go Rory, Matt Fitzpatrick. My gosh. The 2 pivots in the 10s and the 9s. Still, you're not left with a whole lot, but this affords you the capability to go to a chalky Kurt Kitayama, a chalky Michael Thorbjornsen. Maybe you're really high on Ricky Fowler, Thorbjornsen, Sung Jae. Let's only do 1 6K in this one. Let's do Ryo. We'll go to like Ryo Itatsune. Then we can go JJ Spawn and Ricky, Sung Jae, Michael Brennan's a little too much. F it. Let's just go to Thorbjornsen. Like, this lineup's not getting duplicated. Not with Rory Fitz. You're taking some chances here, obviously, but you're not getting duplicated. Spawn seems due. I don't know. I've wanted to believe in Spawn for a while, and it just hasn't happened for him. So those are some creative ways to build lineups, and you're going to have to get creative this week. You're not going to be able to differentiate yourself with your standard 10K, your standard Stars and Scrubs. Sam Burns at the 10, Ludwig at the 9, low 8 of Jake Knapp. Like, this is going to be extremely popular. Mid 7 of Thorbjornsen. Low 7 of, whoever, Adam Scott and Gary Woodland. Like, this is just going to be way too popular. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to build some really off-the-wall shells. That's why I showed you the 4, 9, and double 6. Maybe you go like, maybe if you're a big believer in Tommy, let's do like a Tommy and a Sam Burns. And then drop down, again, I'm going to Alex Fitzpatrick, but maybe you do something like Alex Fitz, people have asked about Noren. I don't hate Noren. Yeah, like Kurt Kitayama, Michael Brennan, Ricky's at 74. A little bit on the higher side, but I don't think many people are going to go to Tommy and Sam Burns in the same lineup. This is going to be a fairly unique. You're going to have to find different ways to put your players together this week, especially in a 50-man field. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but let's build a community lineup here at Calls. We're going to put this in the birdie over at DraftKings, the 20 max entry, $3 per entry. We're only going to have one entry. So I really try to focus on uniqueness since it's a big GPP. But please, by all means, put out or shout out who you want to see in this community lineup. We're going to put one together, and I'll put it out, put it in that contest for us. So are we playing Scotty? Are we playing Rory? So Simple says Ricky. Okay, and you don't have to put the players above and below this. Like Ricky could be our third most expensive, or maybe he's our cheapest. I'm just putting him in here as placeholder. So we've got Ricky. Bishop wants to play Nikolai. Okay. Going to Nikolai, we are adding some maneuverability here. Makes some sense. He is a little bit popular for the 6Ks, but seems like it would be a good fit for him. Who else are we looking at here? Phil, Hanka, P, Muson, Adam Scott. Okay. Adam Scott from Z. So we've got this bottom here. P says Aaron Rye. My goodness, look at this. If we go Aaron Rye, like we can do some things now with these four. Like if we go Scotty, who could we have fit? We can go Scotty, and then I'm not gonna. If you all want McNeely, that's fine. But I'd say Scotty Kitayama. This was P. What if we do Rory? Really get interesting here. Very, very low ownership. We could go Rory and Tommy. That's a possibility. What do you all think about that? Maybe if you all don't like Rory, we can take him out. But I'm just saying that's a possibility, and he's gonna be unique. We could go Tommy and Sam Burns, Rory and Ludwig, Cameron Young, whoever. But we have the money for Rory and Tommy if we wanted to do it. So, what do we think about those two up top? I really do like the emphasis in uniqueness, since this is our only lineup in this big GPP. Burns over Rory. The thing is, Burns is very, very popular. Simple. I like Burns over Rory myself, but with this style of lineup, how chalky will Noren be? Noren appears to be the third or fourth most popular player in the 6Ks. So probably a decent amount, especially if people are gravitating towards Scotty. Yeah, I'm with you, P. No cut makes it much more palatable to roster more of your lower price players. 71.2 total ownership. This is going to be pretty unique. I was about to say something I was going to regret, but I would be hard pressed to imagine anyone duplicates this lineup in that contest. So, if we really want Sam Burns, we can go to Sam Burns. But like if you go Sam Burns, like you're already creeping up into the 80 total. So are we comfortable with this? Simple says yes. If we get a couple more check marks or thumbs up or yeses, I'll put it off there, and that'll be our community lineup for the week. Okay. How about you get duplicated? P, you know what? If you're the one that duplicates it, I'm gonna call foul. I'll call foul play on that, because I would be willing to put a wager in on that. I'm going to end the poll that way. That way I can get to everybody here in chat. But my answer for the poll question: how many players are you using in the 6Ks? For me, I'm using 5+ because I wanted to make sure I had exposure to Scotty, and because of that, I made sure I dipped and dabbed and made sure I had exposure to a few players in the 6Ks. I have two favorite 6K plays, really. That's Alex Smalley and Alex Fitzpatrick, but I am using 6 different players in my lineups in the 6Ks. Okay, second to last thing, very, very quickly. My core for the week. My lineups are either going Scotty and down or Sam Burns. So, well, shoot, you can't really see that, can you? So I understand that not all of these guys fit in the same lineup, but these are the players that I am using most often in my lineups this week. I'm already 1,000 over. Thorbjornsen, Sung Jae, Alex. I'll put Alex Smalley, Alex Fitz. Do you watch all rounds from each of the 4 days? I try to. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Like Thursday nights, I'm in a bowling league, so tomorrow night I'll be bowling when the final groups are finishing up. But I try to watch as much as I can. The guys that I'm going to depend on the most are probably these gentlemen here. If these 5 to 6 guys play extremely well, it's going to be a good week for me. Not to say that Scotty and Hovland and Smalley, I'm using them quite a bit. I'd say more in the 30 to 45, 50% range. But these in green, I'm probably going to be 50% and more in terms of lineups. So this is my core for the week. Take that for what you will. Last thing for this evening, the 2026 Picks Challenge between Gabe and I finishes this week, as we will not be doing a Tour Championship Picks Challenge. I am 1 point behind. I need to make up 2 points on Gabe to retain my Picks Challenge title for 2025. I've got 1 week to do it. My winner this week, I pressed the Scotty Scheffler button. Yes, it's going to be hard for him to win back-to-back, but after all these runner-ups finishes that he's had, I think Scotty's going to put the pedal to the metal. This is a really good course for him, especially with some of the unknowns. Just give me Scotty Scheffler, the best player in the world. Showed it last week. I don't think it stops anytime soon. I don't hate Gabe's choice of going to Patrick Cantlay. I do like Patrick Cantlay. I made sure to roster him a little bit. So Gabe's going to go with Patrick Cantlay. My favorite play, Cameron Young. Not the most owned or projected owned player in the 9Ks. Number 1 in my rankings. I'm going to play metric F tons of Cameron Young. Gabe's going to go with Tommy. He thinks Tommy's going to get squeezed in terms of ownership. Don't hate that suggestion either. I'm going to fade Gary Woodland. There's a couple of names I could have put here. I could have put Jake Knapp. I could have put Wyndham Clark to a lesser extent. But Gary Woodland at 17% projected ownership, by far and away the most projected owned 6K player. He's not in good form right now. Just no thanks. I'm going to let everybody else play Gary Woodland. I want no part of it. Gabe's going to fade Wyndham Clark. I don't hate that suggestion at all, although I did play Wyndham Clark like twice, I think, in my lineups just to have the coverage. So Gabe's going to fade Wyndham Clark. Mad Scientist play, again, it truly might be mad scientist, like insane, if Alex Fitzpatrick doesn't play well for the third straight week with me promoting him. But I'm going to go right back to the well with Alex Fitzpatrick. I believe in the ball striking. Just make a putt. Just one putt. Just one in the 72 holes. Gabe is going to Mad Scientist Nikolai Højgaard. FOMO, fear of missing out. He's very popular. I'm going to play Sam Burns. I like Sam Burns a lot this week. Gabe's going to play Hideki, who he's ridden all year long. Makes sense. And then wild card category, who we think plays their way into the top 30 and plays their way into East Lake. I'm going to take Michael Thorbjornsen. I think this is a really good setup for Thorbjornsen. Now, he has to finish, I think, solo 7th, maybe tied for 7th. It's a lot to ask, but I do like the course fit for Thorbjornsen, so don't be surprised if he's, in the mix this week. And Gabe is going to choose Jake Knapp to play his way into East Lake. So with that all done and said, I've got a lot of people to thank here. Thanks to Z, Muson, Rose, Phil, P, Simple, Hanka, Bishop. Is that everybody? Looks like it is. If I missed you, it was not on purpose. I just try to get through everybody there in chat. But thanks for jumping in the chat this evening. Very, very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. Always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Do me a favor. I hate self-promotion. I really do. But if you enjoyed the lineup building, if you enjoyed going into these deep statistical dives into these player profiles, do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help me out if you do that. If you feel so inclined, subscribe to the channel. I'm live 3 nights a week covering in-depth PGA Tour statistics, trying to find values in the outright market and some hidden gems in DFS. Quick programming note, I don't think I'm going to do anything for the Tour Championship. I will be live Sunday night just to kind of talk with the community, see how your BMW went. But as of right now, I don't plan on doing anything for the Tour Championship, which means I'm going to have time off until the first fall event, which I will be live every week of the fall. I love the fall series. It's a great way to get acclimated to players, build our bankrolls for the beginning of the year in January. So I love the fall. I hope to see you there, but I'll hope to see you Sunday night as well as we do a kind of a little bit of a recap on how the year went. But thanks again for all the support. Very, very much appreciated for all the wagers you've made this week for the BMW Championship, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the BMW Championship. For this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.